So it's finally 2025. Welcome back to another video. This is the first ever video of the year. I hope your year started off well. In this video, since it's the new year and stuff, and people, tend to share what they're gonna do this year and how they're gonna change stuff or how you should do things in the new year, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts of how you should be getting into music production in 2025. If that's interesting for you. I don't know, are there like 5 reasons people say that usually I don't really watch those videos. I only see the titles and I decided to make one of my own. Maybe it's helpful. Okay, so let's start with where everybody's going to start with software. So I'm assuming you already chose you want to do music either as a hobby or want to do it as a living or whatever you want to do. You will need a software to make music. So which software you should choose? FL Studio, absolutely. On a serious note, usually if you go and search on YouTube what to use, people will give you 1 of 2 options or 3 depending on what OS you use. FL Studio, Ableton Live, or Logic Pro. There are other DAWs of course, but these are the 3 most popular ones out there. Logic you should only go with if you have a MacBook because it will only run on Apple software. So yeah, if you're Windows person, forget about it. Now, between FL Studio and Ableton, I personally prefer FL Studio. I've used it for the longest time and I feel comfortable with it. I will eventually get Ableton as well because I really like it, but not to the point where I would use it as my main DAW. But the only way that you can choose a DAW, honestly, in my opinion, is just to get their trial versions. For FL Studio, you have like an unlimited trial version. Only exception is you can't export or save. And for Ableton, I think there's some monthly trial, like you can only have it for 1 month and it's very limited. I don't remember if it is limited or not. But anyway, my opinion is give 1 week to each DAW, and if in first week you fall in love with the DAW that you're using, go with that one without thinking about it. Unless you're like super curious about the other DAW, just go with the DAW that you instantly just feel the groove with, instantly makes sense, because they have 2 completely different workflows. If you choose one and then you decide to go to the other one, it's fine. But if you really like FL Studio, for example, and then next week you want to try Ableton, I can guarantee you, unless you like absolutely hated FL Studio, you're not gonna like Ableton if you like FL Studio. That's just how it is. At least when you're beginning, at least when you're looking at the demos and stuff. If you do like not end up choosing FL Studio in the first week, you're not really like 100% sure you want to try out Ableton, definitely do so. Give it a week, search up on YouTube the basics and stuff, and see if it works for you. Next thing that you're gonna use are plugins. For the most part, stick with the stock plugins for the very beginning. You do not need paid plugins. Look up some free plugins. Unless you specifically you already know how synthesizers work, don't spend money in the very early days and stuff. Unless you have a lot of money to spend, then go for it. I'm not gonna stop you. Who am I? I'm not your father. You can do whatever you want with it. My recommendations for free plugins would be go check out Pianobook and Decent Sampler. It's a good alternative to Kontakt. Of course, it's not the same. It's not exactly the same product, but it is very good for what it is, and it's free for the most part. For synthesizers, I would suggest if you wanted to go for Serum, go for Vital. It's basically Serum but free. Well, not exactly the same, but there aren't really that many differences. Unless you know specifically very deeply the synthesizer, you're really not gonna struggle with one or the other. Now, I'm assuming you chose your DAW and you chose your synthesizers, your plugins. Now, where to begin learning? It's kind of a cliche to say this, and I used to think the same thing when I was learning too, but you gotta start with the very basics. Now, I'm not telling you to go and study every single thing about music theory. Shocker, I make music. I've been making it for 4 years now. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really know a lot of music theory. I just kind of wing it a lot of the times. Now, I do know music theory, but not to the same level of Hans Zimmer. I didn't know music theory when I began making music. The way that I learned music theory and stuff is by literally searching up on Google key, scale, and what notes are in the scale, and then trying it out on my MIDI keyboard and just seeing on the piano roll like what notes are in this key, and then playing around with it. So eventually I learned, and that's how I learned things. I learn by trying stuff and looking at stuff. I don't learn audibly, if that makes sense. Like if you were to tell me something how it works, I wouldn't understand it, but if you were to show me something how it works, I would understand it. That's how I function as a person. So if you function as like, you listen about it and then you instantly learn things better, you should probably just listen to like audiobooks about music theory and stuff. Maybe there are some that might interest you. For sound design, you should do the same thing. You should go onto YouTube and search like the very basic sounds, like, I don't know, basses, saws and super saws and Reese bass, sub bass, these things. Learn the basics and then just mess around with the synthesizer that you chose. Just search. For an example, what does a comb filter do on Serum, or what is a reverb filter? These things, like how they sound, how they should be used and stuff. Just go onto YouTube and search these things and you will eventually learn these. And that's how I went about it. So I'm assuming it's been a while that you've been making music. Now you know how to make music. But now you're thinking about, hey, maybe I should release this music and it's good enough. I should probably put it onto Spotify. Hold it. No, don't do that. Hear me out. I know a lot of people would say, put your music out there. It deserves to be listened to. You shouldn't be afraid to share your music, which I agree with. You shouldn't be. But don't go onto Spotify instantly, because you're gonna need a distributor to release on Spotify. And if you end up not liking the song and it's not a great song that you produced, you will not be able to take it down easily. I learned that the hard way because I did that. I literally posted a song, my second song that I made. I posted it onto Spotify and I had to take it down. It took a while to figure out what to do and stuff. Because you're not gonna be the one doing the process, it's gonna be the distributor. You're just gonna have to rely that your distributor does the thing that you asked them to do, which it is a hassle. So I would suggest, if you're at a point where you feel like, hey, I've been making music for 2 weeks or a month, I think it's good enough. I want people to listen to it, or I want to share it so I can get feedback and stuff and I can improve. It's like a memory log. Make a YouTube channel. Just make a YouTube channel and post it there, or make a SoundCloud page. I wouldn't suggest SoundCloud because you kind of have a limited amount of songs that you can post for free and then you have to pay. Like, unless you can pay SoundCloud, then I would suggest just go for YouTube. You can do so much more on YouTube, videos of your songs and post them there, or even Instagram. But yeah, just be aware that people are not gonna know that you just started out unless you specifically tell them, hey, this is my first ever song. You might get some hate comments and stuff, so you're gonna have to deal with that. Well, it's just a part of life. You're gonna have to like learn these things eventually, like to handle criticism and to know when to share your music and stuff. As you improve, you will get better and better at this aspect of music, if you aren't already. So you might be asking me, hey Arch, okay, so you told us to like share your music onto not Spotify but YouTube and stuff, but when should I share my music onto Spotify? In my opinion, if you want like a literal time frame, for me it was at least 2 years. It took me at least 2 years to get to a point where I was proud enough to release music, mainly because I started releasing with labels, and once the labels started accepting my music, in my opinion, it just was good enough to release on Spotify. That's the starting point for me, but for you, it honestly just depends on how quickly you can learn music production. It can be 1 month, it can be 2 years, it can be 5, it can be 1 year, it can be 6 months, it can be any time frame. Depends on just how much time you can spend making music and how fast you can get good. But you shouldn't be upset if you can't get to a good point in making music in just like 1 month, because that is very unrealistic. And even if you get good at making music in like 5 years, it's perfectly fine. Everybody has their own growth time, everybody has their own stages of learning. That's the tipping point. If you are getting good feedback, your music is sounding better, it doesn't have to be like super high quality. It doesn't have to be Hans Zimmer level of cinematics or whatever. It can be just music that you will listen to mixed with other songs. And you can't be like, hey, this song sucks. If it sounds decent, with other music that you like, then it's probably good enough to release on Spotify. And if you're getting good feedback, then that's a good sign too, so don't be afraid to. Now, you might be asking me, hey, so yeah, I want to release music with on Spotify. What should I use? How should I release them? That's where the sponsor of this video comes from, which is nothing. Nobody sponsors my videos. Who do you think I am? I'm me. I'm too small. I'm like a drop in the bucket. On a serious note, now you probably gotta have to choose between two things: self-releasing or releasing with a label. There are pros and cons in both. In my opinion, if you're gonna go with self-releasing, which is the better option. But remember, it is a very long-term option and you will not get results, at least for a while. That's just how it is. How do I know? Because I've done self-releases and they are very frustrating for me because I want to get into self-releasing again. But when I first used to self-release, there were so many problems, constant problems that I kept having. So I just kind of gave up on that. But now I am thinking of going back because it is better. If you can dedicate the time, if possible some budget, or even if not budget, some time to make content around your music, and just are willing to take the headache of promoting your music and being sure that everything works, then it's definitely worth it. Self-releasing is definitely better because you keep 100% of your royalties, and whatever fan base you grow, you know it's grown uniquely from you, by you, and it is real. Unless you sent it to some playlists that have bots, but yeah, essentially self-releasing is better, but you need to know what to do. It's okay if you don't in the first month or two, because I still don't know. I'm still learning self-releasing. Second option is labels. Now with labels, it's very easy. It might seem hard because yes, getting accepted by a label is very hard. It's not easy. Labels will reject you because you gotta remember, like most labels, at least the bigger ones, the biggest labels, they don't really care when you have ambition. Unless you can like show them you're unique or you can generate the money, they won't really accept you. Unless they're very specific labels. But most of the labels that you think, they mostly care about profit. If you go with like mid-tier labels, mid-tier to low-tier labels, they do look for ambition. They look for uniqueness. They look for good artists. There are big labels as well, but they're very rare, and you need to do research which labels are these particular types of labels. But if you go with mid-tier labels, which are the most reliable ones in my opinion, you still get rejected. Music is very subjective. If you like your song, it doesn't mean that the other person is going to like it. And that is normal. So don't feel bad if your music gets rejected. Unless you get very specific feedback. We rejected your song because your bass is too loud, your mixing can be better, and this sounds a bit generic or whatever. Like, unless you get these feedbacks, you shouldn't worry about you getting rejected. That's just a part of being, a releasing artist with labels. This is just norm. That's the norm. Make sure to do research on your labels that you release with, because a lot of labels will come to you and say, hey, we will release your song, we love this song. But some labels might ask you for money, which it's a red flag. You should definitely not go with them, because labels should invest in you. You should not be investing in the label, if that makes sense. But other aspect is like some labels will tell you, hey, we will do everything for you, and they have like bad deals. Definitely talk to artists that have released some labels, or if people know a specific label, ask your friends and artists that have more experience to talk about the label. From my experience, we producers usually do like to share their opinions. If you're good friends, they will share information with you. It doesn't have to be like super specific, but they can tell you, they can guide you in the right path. So make sure to do your research, because there are so many labels that will take advantage of you. And that could be by taking every single amount of your royalties, or not giving you a good trade-off, having your music streamed by bots. There's so many things that can happen with label releases. So definitely do your research before releasing with a label, and try to go with labels from a reliable source, like a reliable platform. Don't approach labels that have like zero information about them. So I'm assuming that you started releasing your music with either labels or self-releasing, and you started gaining a bit of traction. Now you're probably going through the phase of starting to get bored. You're probably starting to get bored of making music. Now, there's plenty of reasons why. Now, you're probably wondering why. Do you hate making music? Let me tell you, no, you probably don't hate making music. I don't hate making music, I love it. But you're probably doing one of these things. You're working yourself to the bone making music. You're stressing yourself out for your goals, like overly stressing about your goals. You're making the same style over and over again. You're judging yourself by other people's opinion and, you know, comparing yourself to other people. And finally, you're probably thinking about money. That's a reason too. So how to deal with these reasons? Whenever I started this project, art, I never went in thinking I will only make trap music. I will only make dubstep. I decided I wanted to make music. I wanted to make electronic music. Now in electronic music, there are plenty of genres. You can choose a variety of genres. A lot of people will tell you, try to stick to a single sound. Try to stick to a sound. Try to stick to a single genre to get the most amount of fan bases. You should choose, like, I don't know, let's say you should make house music because that's the most popular music to make, and you will become famous and you will become rich by doing that. And you probably will, I'm not denying that, but you will probably won't be able to sustain that. Music is an expression. Music, you express yourself through music. When you make your music, you're expressing your emotions, you're expressing what you're going through in life. It could be good, it can be bad, it can be sad, it can be happy, it can be anything. As with life, you don't stay the same for the rest of your life. If I can give an example, let's say you really like hamburgers. Yeah, let's say you really like hamburgers and you want to eat hamburgers every day. Now, let's take out the whole health aspect. That's not important for this example. But if you keep eating hamburgers every day, it's the same meal, it's the same thing. You don't change anything. Eventually, you will get bored of it. Eventually, you will reach a point where you cannot see a hamburger. You will literally throw up looking at a hamburger because you got so sick and tired of eating the same thing. It's the same with music. If you make a house song, and you make a house song again, and you make another house song, and you make another house song. If you keep making the same house song again, over and over again, eventually you will run out of ideas. If you don't run out of ideas, you will run out of motivation, and eventually you will get just sick and tired of making the same genre. The way that I fought this, and still kind of am fighting this because I did kind of start to fall into this trap, is by keeping my project art, this one, non-genre artist. By that I mean, if you heard my music, which I really hope you did, because if you didn't, then that's weird, and you should definitely go listen to some of my music, please. But you will hear that I kept the similar sounds in most of my music, for sure, but none of them are exactly the same. There's trap phase, there's a melodic dubstep phase, DnB, there's mid-tempo, there's like everything has its own emotion, has its own vibe. That's kind of the way that I combat this, that I don't get bored of music, because for me, if I keep making the same genre over and over again, it gets so sick and tiring. Like, I love making trap music, but once you made like 5 trap beats or trap drops, and I just don't want to make trap again. You should probably try the same thing with your project. Other things, try not to stress about your goals. Saying this, I stress about my goals. I overthink a lot of things. I'm a very introverted person and I overthink everything. So I'm not saying this to be like, hey, I'm better than you. It's just kind of a reminder to myself as well. Try not to overthink things. Try not to be so fixated on your end goal, and try to enjoy your journey, just how it's going. There's gonna be pitfalls. There's gonna be times where you're not gonna love the things that you do. Like, have ambition. Set out goals that you want to achieve. Set out big goals, of course, but don't obsess over them to a point where it's detrimental to your current place in life as a music producer. If this is something that you want to do as a living, don't obsess over it so much where you can't even make music to make a living. You know, it defeats the purpose. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now I'm assuming you fought this problem as well. Now you've reached a point where you're trying to grow, but you don't know how to grow in your music. You don't know how to promote yourself. There's, again, 2 ways to go with this, and both are valid. It depends on you and what you want to do. But number 1, most people will tell you marketing, promotions and stuff. You should have a small budget and you should do Facebook ads or Instagram ads or TikTok ads and post like 100 TikToks a day. And I'll be honest with you, fam, I don't do that. Of course, my music doesn't grow like rocket power or whatever. I don't really do that. That's so annoying to do. I love to make videos like this. It's very fun for me to do so. Sure, I might not look like I'm having fun, but that's mainly because I'm very awkward. Usually whenever I record these videos, I'm either just got off of work or just woke up. So I feel I look disheveled all the time. I love making long videos and YouTube videos. I love watching videos like this, either informative, entertaining, or whatever. So I love to do this, but I'm not gonna spend the amount of time to make like 100 TikToks. That's just not who I am. It really depends on you. If you can make 100 TikToks a day and you can spend some money on marketing, definitely go for it. There's definitely valuable return to this. Absolutely. At work, absolutely. You need to spend money to make money. Before you do, you should definitely learn how to do that, because if you just throw money to Facebook expecting results, that's just not gonna happen. You definitely need to learn how to do them, where your audience is and which budget and stuff. I don't really want to get into this because I don't really understand it myself either, like 100%. So you should probably look up people who do so. Next thing is kind of doing this like what I do. Just make content. If you make music and you want people to just listen to your music, then just focus on music and share your music with content creators that can have your music in the background, or Nightcore channels, or if you can try to get connections, try to make those connections. If you like to make content like this, just sitting in front of a camera or showing project files or talking to the camera or whatever, then do this. It's slow. It's very slow to grow like this. I would know because I had this YouTube channel for 5 years now and I still haven't reached 1,000 subscribers. I'm not upset about it. It's my own fault. I haven't dedicated enough time for this. Now I've started to dedicate more time whenever I can. So hopefully it works out better. Remember, you definitely need to dedicate more time to your content as well. You might not even dedicate the same amount of time for your music, which it's the reality. If you want to grow as an artist, you're probably gonna do something like this. You're gonna finish a song and then 90% of your time is gonna be making content around it. And if you love it, that's great. If you don't love it, then there are other ways. This video is probably getting too long. I've been rambling over and I hope that you're not bored by me rambling. Let's just get to the final point. Enjoy the journey. Remember, if you want to make music, if you want to do it as a hobby, then you're gonna enjoy the journey. Absolutely. But remember, if you want to do it as a career, or it's a very long journey, probably gonna see more lows than highs in this path. You're probably gonna get rejected a lot of times. You're gonna get critical feedback. You're gonna get hate comments, and it's very demotivating a lot of the times. You're gonna compare yourself to a lot of people. It's just natural. It happens. Just remember why you started making music. Just remember what your end goal is and try to stick to it. It's a very long one. And if you can make it, it's gonna be a very fun one. I've said it many times in my videos and I will say it again. The feeling of finishing a song is unmatched. At least for me, it's like there's nothing else out there that could match the same amount of emotions, same amount of happiness that I get by finishing a song. It's just that's my way of thinking about music. I hope you have the same way, because it will make making music worth it for you. I think that's about it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope you found some good information out of this video. Or if you were just watching to support me, thank you. I really appreciate you. If you just wanted to be entertained, I hope it was entertaining enough. If it wasn't, then here's some explosions. Bang, 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 bang. If you liked the video, then make sure you leave a like. Maybe share it with some friends that want to make music but don't know how to make music. And yeah, that's about it for me. So I'll see you in the next video. Peace.